Good afternoon. My name is Melissa Williams, and I am the project lead for the Takoma Park Minor Master Plan Amendment. I'd like to welcome you all tonight. We're going to be presenting the results of the existing conditions analysis. But first, I would like to introduce Alex Cross. He's the Director of Housing and Community Development for the City of Takoma Park.
Thanks, Melissa. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the community engagement session for the Takoma Park Minor Master Plan Amendment. As Melissa said, my name is Alex Cross, and I'm the Director of the Housing and Community Development Department at the City of Takoma Park. We're very happy you can join us tonight to discuss the Master Plan Amendment, as the amendment sets the stage for what is possible in the future in the plan area. It opens the doors to new ideas, but it doesn't dictate exactly what will occur. The Minor Master Plan Amendment is occurring at a very opportune time as the Washington Adventist hospitals move is creating an opportunity to think about the community's needs in a different way, how they may change in the coming years, not just for the hospital property, but also for the area in general. Community engagement is super important for us to make sure we protect what is most valued and to allow us to create a shared vision for the future. We are looking forward to hearing from everyone this evening, and thank you again. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Melissa.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'd like to talk about are the partnerships. The planning department serves as the lead agency in the administration, engagement, development, and production of all the deliverables for the plan throughout the process. But the City of Takoma Park is also a partner. They provide partnership support for stakeholder engagement. They're going to assist with data collection, environmental planning related to their city's tree ordinance and stormwater management, and also the development of varied recommendations. There are also other plan partners. That includes the multifamily property owners, primarily along Maple Avenue and Lee Avenue. There's a large group of affordable housing providers. There's also the major employers and institutions, and that would be primarily Washington Adventist University and Washington Adventist Hospital. And then there are also a number of county government agencies, most importantly, the Montgomery County Public Schools. Tonight, we're going to talk about, I feel like I skipped a slide, sorry about that. Let's talk about the plan boundary. So the plan area boundary was approved on September 30th in 2021, and it considered the following. It looked at the Washington Adventist campus, which includes the hospital and the university. We also looked at the Erie Center, which is located at the intersection of Flower and Erie Avenue. We took into account the multifamily residential, which is located along Maple Avenue and Lee Avenue. And then we also took a look at the Takoma Park facilities. It's important to note that plan recommendations are typically limited to the areas within the plan boundary. And this is an update to the 2000 Takoma Park Master Plan. Since the approval of the scope of work, we've collected and analyzed data. We're going to use that data so that we might answer the following questions. And so what you're seeing here is the agenda that we'll discuss tonight. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Lauren Stamm to speak about demographics.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm Lauren Stamm with the Down County Planning Team, and I'll be talking about who lives in the study area for this plan. You can go to the next slide. For each plan we do, we create a study area, which is distinct from the plan area. This is because the data we use from the census is only available in certain geographies, and they don't usually match up exactly with the plan boundary. On this slide, you'll see the study area in blue, which is made up of 4 census block groups. The plan area is outlined in red. This study area has been modified since the scope of work to get as close to the plan boundary as possible. It includes almost 8,000 residents and nearly 3,000 households. Next slide. To get a sense of who lives in the study area, we'll start with age. The distribution of age in the study area is not too dissimilar from the county, with a slightly lower percentage of residents over 45 and more residents between 35 and 44 and under 5 years old. This chart shows both the county and study area's racial and ethnic makeup in 2000 and 2019. First, let's look at change over time. Since 2000, the makeup of the county has changed significantly, with a decrease in the proportion of white residents and an increase in the proportion of Black, Asian, and Latinx residents. Comparatively, there has been less change in the study area, although there's been a slight increase in the proportion of white and Black residents and decrease in the Latinx population. Now let's compare the county and the study area in 2019, the last two columns. The study area, when compared to the county, has a much higher percentage of Black residents, 50% compared to the county's 19%, and lower percentage of the other categories, white, Asian, and Latinx. Next slide. Many languages are spoken in the study area, and 12% of households within the study area speak limited English, higher than the county's 8%. Though the census categories shown on the slide don't provide the specific languages spoken, through our outreach, we have found Amharic, French, and Spanish all to be commonly spoken and have been translating plan documents into all three. We are also providing live interpretation upon request for community events. Now let's look at the income distribution. This chart compares the income distribution of the county and the study area. As you can see, the study area has a higher proportion of lower income households than the county. In the county as a whole, just 21% of households are making less than $50,000 a year. However, in the study area for this plan, it's 44% of households, nearly half. In terms of educational attainment, the study area has fewer residents over the age of 25 who have received some college education, an associate degree, a bachelor's degree, or a graduate degree when compared to the county. Now I'll hand it back to Melissa to talk about land use, zoning, and urban design.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. So we're going to talk about how the planned area looks and feels, and this covers the land use, zoning, and urban design. The land use map shown illustrates the current type of buildings and activities that exist in the area or on a specific site within the planned area. As you can see, a significant portion of the land is utilized primarily by institutions, specifically the City of Takoma Park and the Washington Adventist campus. The uses along Maple Avenue and Lee Avenue, which serve as the spine for the plan, are primarily multifamily dwelling units. There are also limited amounts of single-family detached, office, and retail uses shown on this map. Zoning provides the regulation for existing and future land uses. Most of the plan area is zoned R60, where the predominant use is a single-family detached unit. The R60 zone also allows other uses like institutional uses and parkland. In this instance, most of the parcels are occupied by institutional uses, once again, such as the Washington Adventist campus and the City of Takoma Park. Other uses operating within an R60 zone on this map include parkland. Maple Avenue and Lee Avenue also provide for the bulk of the multifamily dwelling units, and this is through the R10 and R20 zones. This graph is a way of looking at what the zoning capacity is for the plan area and to compare it to what exists on the ground today. In terms of residential capacity, the number of units exceeds what is allowed by zoning in the plan area. This can be attributed to the fact that much of the housing along Maple Avenue is older and may not conform to its current zoning. This plan will evaluate individual parcels and recommend solutions to address non-conforming buildings. Next, we consider commercial capacity. There are very few properties that are zoned for commercial use. Currently, about 80% of the commercial capacity available is built. Urban design looks at kind of the look and the feel of a building. The Washington Adventist University campus includes a mix of architectural styles, including colonial, revival, and modernist buildings. The hospital campus includes contemporary buildings as well as some earlier structures built through the 20th century as the site evolved over time. Staff will also review several historically significant buildings designed by architects J. Raymond Mims and local architect Ronald Sensman, who also attended Washington Adventist University. Analysis of the history of the plan area and into historically significant structures is ongoing and will be presented as part of a larger historic preservation focused discussion. Maple Avenue is densely populated and is home to a small amount of neighborhood serving retail, the City of Takoma Park Citizens Center, and the majority of the multifamily dwelling units, many of which were constructed before 1961 and feature large surface parking lots. The avenue itself is tree lined with comfortable sidewalks, tree canopy, and features on-street parking and easy access to transit. Lee Avenue is located within the plan. Lee Avenue, located within the plan area, is primarily multifamily. It has limited street parking, but it does have large surface lots. It's a very narrow street with steep topography. There's also limited pedestrian infrastructure. You can see that there's only a sidewalk on one side of the street. The small amount of commercial use located within the planned area is primarily within the Erie Center. It's comprised of 1 to 2 story buildings with traditional street-facing facades, and these buildings were constructed between 1940 and 1970. Now I'm going to turn it over to Chuck Kynes to talk about parks and open space.
Great, thank you, Melissa. Again, my name is Chuck Kynes. I am a park planner with the Park and Planning Commission's Department of Parks, and I'm going to talk about where the community gathers and plays. Next slide. There are 3 commission parks in the plan area: Sligo Creek Stream Valley Park, Takoma Piney Branch Local Park, and Obele Daniels Neighborhood Park. There is also one city-owned park, Hefner Park, located immediately adjacent to Takoma Piney Branch Local Park. Next slide. Sligo Creek Stream Valley Park contains the Sligo Creek Trail and also the Sligo Creek Parkway. The trail is one of the region's most popular hard surface trails. It is heavily used for active recreation and fitness, and also commuting by biking and walking. The Sligo Creek Trail travels from the Prince George's County line to Wheaton Regional Park. The trail is part of the Anacostia Tributary Trail System that includes trails in both Montgomery and Prince George's County. The park also includes Sligo Creek, obviously, that passes through the park, and the stream is part of the Anacostia watershed. Next slide. Takoma Piney Branch Local Park is a very popular, well-used community gathering and play space. The park was acquired by the Commission in 1981. It is a little over 17 acres in size and has an athletic fields, basketball courts, playgrounds, picnic shelters, and a skate park. A paved trail travels around much of the perimeter of the park and is popular for exercise walking and dog walking. The athletic fields are permitted and managed by the City of Takoma Park through an MOU between the Commission and the city. Hefner Park is adjacent to the local park and includes a city-owned and managed dog park. The dog park is accessed from the parking lot for the local park. Hefner Park includes a circa 1959 recreational building that was an important hub for African-American youth when segregation limited area social opportunities. There is a potentially significant historic site that has not been previously reviewed by the Planning Department. Next slide. Obele Daniels Park is a small 2.acre neighborhood park that was acquired by the Commission in 1985. It features a playground, a picnic shelter, and casual open space. Next slide. Energized Public Spaces analysis reveals that the plan area is generally well served for outdoor active, social, and contemplative experiences. There are no experience improvement areas in the plan area, which means it doesn't have any deficits for outdoor recreation. EPS analysis looks at all outdoor public facilities, including parks, schools, community recreation facilities, among other land uses. Next slide. EPS analysis also reveals that the park and recreation facilities and amenities have good walkable access within the plan area, which is defined as sidewalks along major roads and/or access using low volume, low speed residential streets. I'm now going to hand it off to Jessup Lee, who's going to talk about transportation.
All right. Thank you, Chuck. Hello, my name is Jessup Lee, Transportation Planner, the Montgomery County Planning Department. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the transportation analysis. Can you go to the last slide, please? Yes, thanks. So after the County Council adopted a new policy called Growth and Infrastructure Policy in 2020, new guidance for the evaluation of transportation adequacy was issued for master plans and sector plans to ensure that the transportation infrastructure is adequate to accommodate new developments. This guideline guidance requires to evaluate 5 performance metrics: accessibility to jobs by auto and transit, travel time by auto and transit, VMT, vehicle miles traveled per capita, and non-auto driving mode share, and low-stress bicycle accessibility. Transportation adequacy is evaluated how the recommendations we make in the plan will work by comparing the relative value of these metrics. Master plan, the transportation adequacy is achieved if all metrics pertaining to the proposed plan reflect on improved projected condition relative to the currently adapted plan. Next slide, please. There are numerous transit options within the larger study area, but within the plan boundary, transit access is limited to Awamara Metro and ride-on bus. The plan boundary has the Awamara Metro Rail line in Takoma stations, and Awamara the Metro bus, and the county ride-on bus routes, and also Maryland DOT and MTA commuter lines, and also College Park shuttles and the Purple lines. The completion of the Purple line is expected to provide improved transit access. Next, please. The bikeways. Cycling is a popular mobility option amongst the Takoma Park residents. The map highlights the existing and proposed bike infrastructure. There are existing structured bikeways on the Coral and Flower Avenue, and also proposed shared roads on the Coral and Flower Avenue. And there are also the proposed separated bike lanes on Maple Avenue and existing trail on Sligo Creek. Next, please. The analysis tool used to perform the master plan transportation analysis is the planning department sub-area focused regional travel demand model. It's called Travel 4MP. On the various areas of land use development and transportation system, a travel demand forecasting is conducted with 4 steps. First, how many trips are produced? And second, where are people going? And third, what travel models are people using? And fourth, and what routes are people taking? The model analysis results estimate the new metrics to determine the transportation adequacy. As shown in the network, the key features of this tool include the transportation network, shown in red, blue, and green line segments, and the traffic analysis zones, TAZ boundaries of the study area shown in the heavy green lines, which are the units of geography used in the most conventional travel demand models. And you can see Takoma Park plan boundaries and Silver Spring plan boundary in yellow, and the Silver Spring Takoma Park Palace area that encompass both plan areas. By county committees, the guidance, the transportation adequacy for small area plans like Takoma Park Master Plan is evaluated in the context of the larger parent palace areas. Next, please. So for the transportation adequacy determination, the goal of transportation analysis is for all of the metrics to get better through the plan's recommendations. As shown on the previous slide, this plan falls within the Silver Spring Takoma Park Palace area. So therefore, the metrics results already derived from the Silver Spring downtown and adjacent community plan may be used for this plan. Next, please. The metrics results. It should be noted that the all metrics results reported in this table are derived from the Silver Spring downtown plan, and the data pertaining to auto and transit accessibility, and VHT, vehicle hours traveled, PHT, person hours traveled, and VMT, vehicle miles traveled per capita, is reported at the palace area level. NADMS, the non-auto driver motor share, the most right side column, is reported at the geography of the Silver Spring downtown plan area. This geography is generally consistent with the boundary of the Silver Spring CBD Transportation Management District. Unlike the Silver Spring CBD area, the Takoma Park Master Plan area does not have a predefined NADMS goal. So given the limited scope and scale of the plan, NADMS goal for this plan is not contemplated. So finally, the low stress bicycle accessibility metric results are not reported in this table. For the Silver Spring downtown plan, the countywide level low stress bicycle accessibility for 2045 are 79.9% and 80.6% for the adapted plan and proposed plan respectively. This metric was not computed for existing conditions because the year of 2015, a bicycle level was not available. Next, please. Key takeaways. The comparison of existing and future conditions shows that we are moving in the right direction. So we can use that guidance as we develop the transportation recommendations in this plan to make sure that the proposed plan recommendations to maintain transportation adequacy. And this is the transportation part, and I will pass to Saquon for the next part.
Thank you, Jasip. The team also began to examine the existing conditions of the study area in order to better understand how environmentally resilient or green the community is. Next slide. One aspect that stood out when studying Takoma Park is the tree canopy. First, through walking the community and looking at satellite imagery and then studying the changes over time, we found that relative canopy coverage in the area is quite large. This is supported by strong policies related to urban forestry and tree planting, which we found that providing and maintaining tree coverage in a variety of areas has been a priority of the current master plan, as well as the policies of the city of Takoma Park. Next slide, please. The tree canopy is also closely linked to heat island, which is a critical area to examine as its effects have impact for the health and comfort of humans in the environment. As climate trends show that extreme temperatures are likely to continue, it's important to keep an eye on the contributing factors such as tree canopy and land use. And as you can see on the map to the right, while the study area is relatively cool thanks to the tree cover and green areas, large amounts of paved areas greatly contribute to the heat island effect in the study area. And the next slide speaks to that as well. As we look at impervious surfaces, these areas of paved surfaces are also important to consider when thinking about the precipitation events and the impact both locally and in the larger ecological context. Runoff in Takoma Park affects both the health of Sligo Creek and the watershed at large. By surface area, roads and parking lots make up the majority of impervious surfaces. The rooftops are large contributors as well. And it's also important to note that in the study area, there are a large range of elevations and slopes. And this is something key to keep in mind for both local considerations such as flood preparedness, as well as resilient infrastructure and the health of the watershed. While the Anacostia River, which is fed by local tributaries, has improved in health over recent years, there remains room to grow in this area. Next slide. So this map on this slide is from 2018. It was produced by the city of Takoma Park, but we've included it to show that the stormwater management in the area has been a focus of the city for many years. And in fact, since 2018, we've seen steps taken to provide more stormwater management in the area. For example, the image on the lower right shows a large stormwater management facility at Washington Adventist University along Flower Avenue. And this is one of the few stormwater management facilities along Flower Avenue that has been constructed in recent years. However, there's still room to provide more stormwater management infrastructure so that we can be more resilient for stormwater and extreme precipitation events. The picture on the upper right shows an example of areas where there's lots of surface parking and still room to greatly increase infiltration in the area there. Next slide. And finally, the team also documented environmentally sustainable design examples related to the built environment. Despite limited opportunities for new development, the city has quite a few LEED certified buildings, including 3 within the master plan area, as shown on the image to the right. Through further examining green building credits achieved by these projects, such as LEED, US Green Building Council, and others, the team aims to identify further opportunities to support the sustainable growth of the community. Overall, the study of key environmental features within the study area has shown us that continued emphasis on stormwater management is important to ensuring the resilience of the community. And additionally, by continuing to support and enhance the urban forestry practices currently in place, Takoma Park can strive to be a community where the extremes of a changing climate can be mitigated and environmental health, both locally and downstream, can be improved. Next, Lisa Gavoni will talk about the existing condition analysis of housing.
Thank you, Saquon. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Gavoni, and I work on housing policy for the planning department. Next slide. When looking at housing in the Takoma Park minor master plan study area, we see an area that is home to many more diverse housing options as compared to the county. The minor master plan study area has just over 3,000 housing units, and over a quarter of these housing units are in the form of what we call missing middle housing, which includes diverse housing types like duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, and small apartment buildings. And in the minor master plan study area, we also see that detached and attached single family units, they're less common in the plan area as compared to the county. We also looked at the tenure of residents in the Takoma Park study area. And what we see is we see an even split between owner-occupied and renter-occupied housing units. When we compare to the county, we see less owner-occupied housing units and more renter-occupied housing units. Next slide. We also looked at all the rental units in the Takoma Park area for both rents and unit type breakdown. So first, let's talk about unit type breakdown. More than half of the rental units in Takoma Park are family size. And what this means is they have 2 or more bedrooms. As we know, these family size units are resources for the community, a source of naturally occurring affordable housing. And we're gonna look at options to preserve or expand opportunities for these types of units, hopefully through our plan. Next slide. While there are no moderately priced dwelling units in the plan area, which is the county's mandatory inclusionary zoning affordable housing program, this is largely due to the relatively old age of the multifamily structures in the study area. There is existing affordable housing in the plan area. And we see these units through partnerships with agencies and partners like Montgomery Housing Partnership, Montgomery County Coalition for the Homeless, Enterprise Community Partners, and Community Preservation Development Corporation, and senior housing providers. Next slide. We also looked at the rents of all multifamily facilities in Takoma Park, and we found that rent facilities in Takoma Park have lower rents than the county by around 30%. The average effective rent in the county is around $1,900, as compared to around $1,300 in Takoma Park. Of course, many rental facilities in Takoma Park are under rent stabilization and cannot increase the rent more than the city's rent stabilization allowance. But the rental facilities in Takoma Park also tend to be older, which is often an indicator of lower rents. Next slide. We also looked at the for sale market in both Takoma Park and Montgomery County. There is a strong for sale market in the county and in zip code 20912, which is the zip code that serves the Takoma Park area. The median sold price for all units in zip code 20912 is 4% higher than the county's median sold price. But in 2021, the average detached home sold for around $875,000 in the county. In Takoma Park, it was high, but not as high as the county, where it sold for detached units sold for about $775,000, which is still high, which after adjusting for inflation, in Takoma Park, we saw about an 8% increase over 2020's average detached sold price. And this is higher than the county's inflation adjusted year-over-year increase for detached units, where in the county it was 5%. Next, we'll talk to Jesus Beck.
Thanks, Lisa. Should I keep going? I don't see my video. Okay, good evening. This is Jesus Beck. I'm the schools planner in the Countywide Planning and Policy Division, and I'll be briefing on schools. The Takoma Park Plan area is currently served by Blair High School as part of the Down County Consortium. For elementary and middle school, the plan area is split into 2 different feeder patterns. The northeast side of the Sligo Creek Trail, shown in pink, and which includes the Adventist University and former hospital site, feeds to Rolling Terrace Elementary School and Silver Spring International Middle School. The southwest side, shown in purple, feeds to Takoma Park Elementary School for grades K through 2, Piney Branch for 3 to 5, and then Takoma Park Middle School. Many of these schools are known for their magnet or special programs that attract students from outside of the geographic service area. And the historical context of this is worth noting from a master plan perspective. Between the 70s and 80s, some of the Takoma Park schools were targeted to be closed due to the risk of becoming a segregated school. So magnet programs were introduced as a way of maintaining a balanced population. A study done on these MCPS integration plans by the Harvard Project on School Desegregation in 1994 stated that magnet schools may have been one of several factors here that stabilized or improved the racial balance in the neighborhood. Next slide. Now we'll look at the utilization projections. School utilization is how we measure what many people describe as overcrowding. And we do it by comparing the total enrollment of a school to its capacity using MCPS's projection. Blair High School is projected to be heavily overutilized until the 2026-2027 school year. But MCPS is planning to reassign students in 2027 when the Northwood and Woodward High School projects are complete. And though we can't predict what each school's enrollment will look like afterwards, there is sufficient capacity among all the schools being considered for this boundary change. The middle schools have already received or are scheduled for classroom additions soon, and therefore projected to have surplus seats in the near future. Rolling Terrace Elementary School is showing to be slightly over capacity, but not to a degree that requires a solution yet. The pairs Takoma Park and Piney Branch Elementary Schools are projected to be underutilized. Also, Piney Branch Elementary School has been identified for a major capital project, so a major upgrade or even complete rebuild of the facility can be expected in the near future. Wrapping up the schools section, the latest enrollment projections and capital improvement plans indicate that the schools serving the plan area should be sufficient in the near future, but it is dependent on decisions made by MCPS or the county executive and council. Next, I'll be turning the mic back to Melissa.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk about community resources. As you can see, there are numerous resources located immediately within the plan boundary, including facilities owned and operated by local government, community centers, schools, and the Washington Adventist campus. Additional facilities such as the Takoma Park Volunteer Fire Department and the Recreation Center are noted on the map, but not shown. Now I'll take an opportunity to talk about how did we get all of this information? What have we heard and how did we hear it? And this is going to deal with community engagement. Engagement began in the summer of 2021 and is still ongoing. Staff utilized a variety of methods to reach residents, including the traditional drop-in, newsletter, and flyering. We also contracted with a consultant to canvass residents and stakeholders. Phase 1 of canvassing took place in December and focused on the multifamily units along Maple and Lee Avenue. Phase 2 of canvassing has begun this month, and will focus on the users of the Washington Adventist campus. This is just an example of how we reach people where they were located. You can see images from us participating in the farmers markets, community events such as National Night Out, and also canvassing. The flyer to the right is an example of the type of information that was distributed as a part of our canvassing effort. As I stated previously, these efforts focused in phase 1 primarily on the multifamily units on Lee and Maple Avenue. The canvassers were comprised of volunteers and paid staff. Many of the volunteers were local residents. There was also participation from council staff and the deputy city manager of Takoma Park. Approximately 1,200 flyers were distributed in December. These flyers were offered in the predominant languages within the plan area. And as we noted earlier, that is English, French, Spanish, and Amharic. The diversity was also reflected in the volunteers. Volunteers hailed from 11 different countries and were also able to provide live translation into 7 different languages. We are continuing the canvassing effort. And as I stated earlier, we're right now canvassing on the Washington Adventist campus, and that will continue through April 14th. So this is an example of the participation by race and ethnicity. More than 275 residents participated in phase 1. The respondents were diverse, with the majority self-identifying as African, and that is African as in hailing from an African country. There was also more than 500 unique comments, which fell into 17 topics. The majority of the comments were associated with housing, but there was also considerable discussion regarding health and wellness, public facilities, recreation, and transportation. Now let's talk about next steps. This slide shows our planned timeline. Staff will present our existing conditions to the Planning Board on March 31st, and you are also welcome to attend. I advise everyone to watch that online. You can also sign up to ask questions or comment. Upon completion of the existing conditions analysis, the plan will begin the visioning phase. This includes the preparation of preliminary recommendations. We have a goal of completing the progress draft by fall. The staff anticipates coming back to you for additional engagement throughout this process. We also have a historic preservation discussion that will take place at the Planning Board on April 21st. The staff will provide preliminary background and historical information, and also an overview of historically significant topics and sites related to the plan area. If you would like to stay in touch with us and you don't have my contact information, once again, I am Melissa Williams, the project lead. I can be reached by phone at 301-495-4642. That's a direct number for me. We also have a plan email address. That's Takoma Park, MMA @montgomeryplanning.org. You're encouraged to sign up for our e-letter. We provide continuous information on the plan. That is at montgomeryplanning.org /Takoma Park. That's our website where you can actually sign up for our e-letter and also take a survey. And for those of you that are very tech savvy, we have a QR code where you can actually scan that. It will take you to our website and all of our additional information. And with that, we are ready to begin the question and answer portion of tonight's event.
Great. Okay, so thank you again for everyone who joined us tonight. As Melissa said, we're going to start the Q&A portion of tonight's meeting. So if you would like to ask us a question, just go ahead and click the Q&A box. It's at the bottom of your screen. It'll open the Q&A window and you can type your question there. We did get one question there, and that was about the study area. So maybe actually, Melissa, are we able to go back to that slide that shows the map of the study area?
Yes, give me a second. And hold on, and got a couple more clicks here.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and read the question while you're doing that. So looking towards the northeast corner, it appears that some of the plan area is beyond the study area. And in just one second, we'll show you that, yes, that's correct. And we can talk about why. So as you'll see, yes, there is a piece on the screen. I think, Melissa, you may be able to point to it, that is not included in the study area. And that's just because that census block group was very large and included a lot of area that wasn't really relevant to this plan. So we decided to make the determination. We looked at each census block individually to decide what to include. So this is kind of where we landed. It is unfortunate sometimes that we're limited to these census geographies because they don't necessarily align with our planning boundaries. So we always kind of face this you know, in every plan, we have to make a decision about what to include in the study area. So this is kind of what we've determined for this plan. So now I'm going to ask another question, and this is about the role of the city of Takoma Park in the planning process. Takoma Park is its own municipality. Melissa, can you talk a little bit about how that works and what the role of the city is in the planning process? And if you want, we can, I think we can take the screen off. Oh, there you go. That's a relevant slide. Go ahead.
Great. So we signed a memorandum of understanding with the city of Takoma Park. So they are a full partner in this process. And what that means is that we are kind of equally yoked throughout the entire process. They're providing support for stakeholder engagement. They're also assisting with data collection. So we do know, because they're a municipality, they have access to information on a municipal level that we may not have access to. So it's important to be able to gather that information in a timely and efficient manner. The city also has their own tree ordinance and stormwater management authority. So that makes it incredibly important that they're at the table when we're talking about things related to the environment, specifically the stormwater management, which was something that came up several times when we were out meeting with residents and other stakeholders. Additionally, they are going to be assisting with the development of the economic development, housing, and the potential schools recommendations. And those are all things that are near and dear to the hearts of the city of Takoma Park. And once again, because they are a municipality, they have information and access to data that is incredibly relevant to all three of those subjects. And we do have members of our team that are here from the city of Takoma Park. So if they wanted to jump in and respond to this question as well, definitely feel free to jump in.
Great. Okay, and we have a few more questions in the chat. So what were some of the themes you heard from resident comments on housing, recreation, and transportation?
Sure. So what we heard from housing is that, by and large, most were incredibly happy with their lives in the city of Takoma Park, specifically within the planned area. There was a concern about rising rents, which I think is kind of a concern that we hear across all of our planned areas. There was also some concern regarding maintenance of some of the units, and that's to be expected because, as Lisa Gavoni noted, these are older housing units. As it related to transportation, the transportation comments were interesting. There was a concern that the proximity to downtown Silver Spring it's not as beneficial as it could be for those people that are using public transportation, because there's kind of an inefficient route or not a direct route for people that lived specifically along Maple Avenue to get to downtown Silver Spring. So there was some concern that the transit routes were circuitous, and they were hopeful that the introduction of the Purple Line would improve that access. And so that was something that came up a lot. And I'm sorry, Lauren, what was the other? I know it's 3 parts. Was it parks?
Recreation, yes.
Recreation. Interestingly enough, I think the responses were tempered because of COVID. And so, keep in mind that a lot of the conversations that we had with residents, especially the canvassing, happened in December. So that was kind of the height of the second wave. And so I believe that a lot of the responses kind of related back to the limited opportunities for people to kind of gather inside. And because the weather had changed, even though they have this really great park system that's accessible, you have a combination of bad weather and not being able to use some of the indoor facilities. And so by and large, that was kind of what we heard, is that people felt that they needed to have improved kind of access to indoor activities. But for the most part, they spoke really highly of the park system. They spoke highly of the trail system. It was more along the lines of, because we're in the situation that we're in now, it would be great if there were additional kind of recreation spaces that were available to people that were in walking distance.
Great. And so one more question about everyday canvassing. You mentioned another phase of everyday canvassing. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what the goal of that next phase is, who you'll be talking to, and what you're hoping to learn in that next phase.
Okay, so currently everyday canvassing is actually, they're canvassing right now on the Washington Adventist University campus. And they are working closely with the student population and with the staff of the university. And that goal is essentially to speak with the users of that campus and to find out what are their needs in terms of what do they need from this process to improve their overall experience within the plan area. We're asking them, how do they arrive to the university, to determine should there be improved connectivity? Do we need to talk about improved transit options? We're also trying to determine, how many of the student population or how many of the staff actually live within the planned area. And if they don't live within the planned area, do they have a desire for that? And so it's about taking advantage of a major activity center that's located in the area, people that are actively moving through the community on a regular basis, and trying to determine, are there things to get some additional nuance in how the campus is used and how people are actually moving through the planned area.
And did any residents in the engagement that we've done so far mention lack of walkable access to grocery stores or healthy food options? Has that come up?
It did. There was a lot of conversation about walkability in general. And there were people who currently say that, they have to go outside the planned area for some of their commercial activities, some of their commercial needs and local kind of retail needs. And in many cases, they're either going over to the kind of Takoma, Langley Crossroads area, or they're going to downtown Silver Spring because they're kind of sandwiched between those two major retail nodes. And the issue, kind of piggybacking on the issue with the transit, is that it's not a direct connection. And that while they're very close, that if you're on transit, it may not be the most efficient way to get there. And if you're walking, you do have places where you start to run out of infrastructure. And so it may not be the safest walk, even though it's close. So those are things that we heard, and those are things that we're going to review as a part of this process.
Great. And I think this is our final question, unless any others come in the next few minutes. Are developers expressing interest in the Adventist site?
So my understanding is that the Washington Adventist University, they have a group that they are working with. They are still very early in the process. They are actually still doing their existing conditions analysis, and I believe that there'll be a presentation to us and to the community at some point in the future. But they're still kind of working through the process to determine, what's the potential and what are the opportunities that are there. I can tell you it's a very large site. We're talking about, between the university and the campus, we're looking at roughly 40 acres. And so there is an opportunity there. So I expect that there will be some interest.
Great. And I think we don't have any more questions. So I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I'm going to share a link in the chat for everyone who joined us to complete a brief post-event survey that just helps us learn a little bit about who we reached tonight at this event, and it's an easy way to sign up for the e-letter. I also included some links to directly sign up for the e-letter. Check out our website and email Melissa. And with that, Melissa, is there anything else? Oh, it does look like we do have one more question. So I'm going to ask you one final question.
Okay.
And this is from Upmeet Atwal, who works with Councilmember Hucker. He says, residents have contacted us about Piney Branch Elementary School and their pool. Do those fall within the plan area?
They do. If you, hold on, let me go back. I believe we had that listed as so that's number 3. So if you look at this image, the dot that says 3 represents the pool at Piney Branch Elementary School. And so that was actually listed as a community resource. My understanding from the conversations that I had with the residents is, they view that as a very important part of their community. And they were happy. I believe that that pool was actually open for the residents to use during the COVID epidemic.
Great. Okay, and I think that was our final question. We have one more, so I'm going to ask you one more since we have time.
No problem.
Are there concerns with pedestrian safety and Vision Zero on Maple?
Yes, and we say that, and I don't want to say that it's necessarily concerns. What I will say is that Vision Zero is a transportation policy, and that is something that we are looking at countywide. And so we will be looking to implement Vision Zero policies and practices in all of our plans. And so we are looking at Maple Avenue, and we should be looking at Lee Avenue, because those are major activity centers as it relates to the number of residents. They're densely populated. There's a lot of activity. There will be a lot of people moving about on both of those streets. And so we will definitely be looking to apply Vision Zero where we can. You're muted.
Oh, thanks, Melissa.
Okay.
Well, thank you again for everyone who joined us tonight. We will be sending out the slides to this as well as the recording and posting that on our website in case you'd like to share it with anybody else. And I think, is there anything else you want to add, Melissa?
No, I think that is it for me. Once again, I just want to remind everyone that we will be presenting to the planning board this week on March 31st. You are encouraged to participate. You are strongly encouraged to participate. We also are available to speak with you at either a small group meeting, or if you belong to a civic association, a neighborhood group, an HOA, and you have a standing community, a standing meeting that you host, we are available to come out and to speak with you. So we look forward to hearing from all of you. And once again, we thank you for giving up your valuable time this evening to sit with us and hear about our analysis.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks again.